And so I have always been convinced that the American people are decent people and a generous people, willing to work hard and sacrifice for future generations. And if we could just get beyond our divisions, the divisions of race and region and religion, if we could come together, black, white, Hispanic, Asian, Native American, young, old, rich, poor. If we could come together to challenge the special interests that have come to dominate Washington, the fat cats and the money that has set the agenda. And we could also come together to challenge ourselves to be better. Better parents, better neighbors, better citizens. Then I believe there was no challenge we could not solve. There was no destiny that we could not fulfill. And I am here to report to you, Rhode Island, that after traveling all across the country for a year, after logging in more miles than I care to remember, after talking to hundreds of thousands of people, after shaking tens of thousands of hands, after kissing hundreds of babies and eating hundreds of chicken dinners, I am here to report to you that my bet has paid off. My faith in the American people has been vindicated because I would like to take all the credit for this amazing interest and turnout. Here in Rhode Island, we're seeing record registration rates all across the country, record voters, young people voting like never before. I would like to take all the credit for it, but I have to admit I can't. Part of the reason everybody is so enthusiastic, so energized, so interested in this election is they know that this November they'll be choosing the next president of the United States, and they know that no matter what else happens, the name George W. Bush won't be on the ballot. The name of my cousin, Dick Cheney, will not be on the ballot. The name of, yeah, some of you read about this. They did a genealogical survey of some sort, and apparently Cheney and I are a distant relation. This was really embarrassing when this news came out. But his name won't be on the ballot, which means that the failed policies of the last 7.5 years, the Katrina and the wiretaps and the Scooter Libby justice and the Brownie incompetence and the Karl Rove politics, all that will finally be over next year. That's not the only reason that you're here today. That's not the only reason I'm here. It's easy to be against something. We don't want to just be against something. We want to be for something. We want to feel as if it's possible for us to do great things in this country, to come together and solve big problems. And we've got big problems to solve. I hear about them every day. I hear the stories of the American people, and all too often they are stories of hardship and stories of struggle. I'll be down in San Antonio, and I'll meet a couple who got involved in a predatory loan, a deceptive loan, and suddenly their mortgage doubles, and they're looking at losing their home to foreclosure, and they're having to cut back on medicine that keeps them well just to stay in their home. All across this country, I meet workers who have seen their jobs shift overseas, and suddenly, instead of making $20 or $25 an hour, they're making $7 an hour at the local fast food joint. No benefits, no health care, no pensions. All across this country, I meet teachers who are digging into their own pockets to buy school supplies. I meet young people who dropped out because they don't see any prospects for themselves. And if they do through determination and grit, get through high school and graduate, and they want to go to college, they look and realize they're going to have to take out $20 or $30 or $40 or $50,000 worth of debt. And many of them decide not to do it. And those who do are burdened with back-breaking debt that they can't dig themselves out of. All across this country, I meet seniors who are worried about their retirement, worried about Social Security, can't afford a full dose of prescription drugs because it's gotten so expensive. All across this country, I meet veterans of Iraq and Afghanistan who are proud of their service, and rightfully so. They have done everything. They have done everything that's been asked of them. But they think about those that they left behind, those who are still deployed. They question the wisdom of a mission that cost us so dearly in blood and in treasure. Sometimes I'll meet homeless veterans or disabled veterans who ask how it is that their service could have been forgotten so quickly. And sometimes I'll meet growth plans after rallies like this. I'll meet mothers and fathers like the one that gave me this bracelet to commemorate his son, 20 years old, who was killed in a roadside bomb. Who weep silently in my arms and ask that I bring the rest of the young men and women home. So all across the country, people are desperate for different politics. They don't expect government to solve all their problems. But they do want a government that's listening to them, that's fighting for them, that's advocating for them, that cares about them. They do expect a government that can help knock down some of the barriers that stand between them and their dreams. And so what I tell people is, I wouldn't be running if I wasn't confident in my ability to fight and advocate on your behalf. If I didn't think I could bring it up. But I have to tell you, Rhode Island, I can't do it by myself. I've got to have your help. Remember, change doesn't happen from the top down. It happens because the American people are mobilized, are activated, are engaged, are involved, because you guys are ready for change. And so, if you are ready for change, we can go ahead and tell the lobbyists that their days of setting the agenda in Washington are over. They have not funded my campaign, they will not run my White House, and they will not drown out the voice of the American people. If you are ready for change, then we can stop talking about the outrage of 47 million people without health insurance and start doing something about it. Now, this personal to me, my mother died of cancer when she was 53 years old. And that was a hard enough thing, but it made it worse seeing her reading insurance forms in the last month of her life because she had just got a new job and there was some question as to whether this is a pre-existing condition that maybe the insurance companies didn't want to pay her medical bills. I know what it's like to see a loved one suffer, not just because they're sick, but because of a broken healthcare system. And it is wrong. And that's why I put forward a plan. That's why I put forward a plan that says every single American can get health care that is at least as good as the health care I have as a member of Congress. And nobody will be excluded for pre-existing conditions, and we will subsidize it if you can't afford it. And we will negotiate with the drug companies for the cheapest available price on drugs. And if you are under 25, you can stay on your parents' health insurance. And if you've got health insurance, and we're going to work to lower your premiums by $2,500 per family per year. And we are not going to wait 20 years from now to do it, or 10 years from now to do it. We are going to do it by the end of my first term as president.